слышны в саду даже шорохи. Все здесь замерло до утра. Если б знали вы, как мне дороги подмосковные вечера. Если б знали вы, как мне дороги подмосковные вечера. Речка движется и не движется, вся из лунного серебра. Песня слышится и не слышится в эти тихие вечера. Песня слышится и не слышится в эти тихие вечера. Что ж ты, милая, смотришь искоса, низко голову наклоня? Трудно высказать и не высказать все, что на сердце у меня. Трудно высказать и не высказать все, что на сердце у меня. А рассвет уже все заметнее. Так, пожалуйста, будь добра, не забудь и ты эти летние подмосковные вечера. Не забудь и ты эти летние подмосковные вечера.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Can hear you.
All right, perfect. I'm getting some feedback though, so give me a second. Gotta get rid of that. I'm getting some feedback though. Okay, that seems to be better. Okay, give me 1 second. Okay. Cheers, TRX. That took a lot of work. Okay, come on. Oh man, my overlay was perfect. Oh, there we go, perfect. But your names are the wrong way around, so let me change that there. Okay. Can anyone in chat just let me know if the sounds? We tested it beforehand, but can the chat just make sure that the sounds okay? So this is me, Perceptor. Would you say something?
Yeah, testing.
And Repo.
Hello.
All right, cool. All right, that sound good to you guys?
Yes, you
Awesome.
sound good.
Awesome. All right,
Yep.
solid. All right, so
Yeah, everything's good. Just to clarify.
cool. First of all, yeah, I want to say a massive thanks for you guys for for doing this. Yeah, I kind of didn't know what to expect. I know you guys, I know, moderately mysterious characters within the community. I don't know to what extent you're aware of that.
Well, that's kind of to be expected for me, right? I really just post times and occasionally post in the forums.
Right.
So if I'm this sort of, legend figure,
Yeah,
that's really
legendary
cool to
is
hear.
the word, definitely.
I wouldn't call myself legendary, but I'm a little bit more, I guess, involved than Perceptor is. So that's still kind of funny that have that aura. But nonetheless, it is, I guess, humbling in a way.
I think that the rest of us would call you legendary, so like, you can take that definitely. Um, so first thing, what Cal usually does is he'll go over just some of the stuff that's been going on in the community. Although having said that, I don't actually know to what extent you guys, yeah, being these kind of figures, I don't know to what extent you guys actually keep up with the news in the elite. Like, how do you check? Like, there's some of us who like check, the ranks every day for like the new times, but I don't know to what extent you guys are actually like that, or if you check it fairly infrequently.
So Blue, do you want me to go first, or?
Yeah.
Well, for me, I check it like a few times a week, just because I have a sense of how the levels work, and so whenever I see a world record in Untied, I'm like, I got to see this. So for me, I don't keep super close track because as you know, I'm not on Discord at all. So,
Right.
but I do watch the videos. I watch the speed lores; they're super interesting. I do, yes, keep track of the times.
Solid. What about you, Reaper?
I guess you could call me more of an active lurker. I do keep pretty good track of what's going on and have a good idea of what the latest rumblings are. I just don't really participate too much unless I have something to actually contribute. So I do have an awareness,
Cool.
just not too much of a presence beyond that.
Okay, so I guess that means that the stuff I'll say like should be pretty familiar to you. I don't know if there's any times that stuck out to you guys recently, but did you see what Will's been doing on Caverns recently? Sorry,
Didn't he just post like a
I'm gonna
94
start. I'm gonna
point
start
time?
with you, Perceptor. Yeah.
Yes, I just like I'm looking at the page right now. He just posted like a 131. That's really super impressive. I know Caverns is one of the hardest levels. When I was growing up playing GoldenEye, so I mean it's just crazy seeing this double O agent being run. So hope he gets the world record.
Yeah, it was such a smooth run. Like it was absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, I'm with you. Like I don't know what his goals are, but I could see him potentially getting the record. To be honest. Um, for you, Repo, or any times I know stand out to you in the last month or so that you really thought, wow, like didn't see that coming.
I mean, when you put it like that, I mean, a lot of guys stay in the communities, dying and dead for times posted, or everyone's hoarding, everyone's against hoarding. Who really knows? But if you just really go down a list and say pretty much anything after 90 points is pretty significant. I mean, yeah, it's a cop-out answer, but using Will's Cameras as an example, I couldn't do that, and it blows my mind that people are not only able to do that, but also get better. And I, too, hope he can at least tie Ace, because that's a pretty heavy-duty, long-standing Untied. Well, not the longest-standing Untied, but it's a pretty long-standing Untied at this point. I mean, how long has it been? At least a couple of years, right?
Yeah, it must be. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Saw that Joaquin got the cradle sweep in reasonably short order. It's I was kind of thinking whether or not Joaquin fits in the same category as you guys, being a level specialist. Because I mean he's kind of like the runway master really. I don't know what you guys have thought of his pretty quick rise over the last couple of years.
I mean, I'll say I wish I could be as good as he is. I mean, I don't even have a world record. That's a goal of mine one day.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's interesting that had he only played Runway, nothing else, and gotten the world records there, he'd be known as a level specialist. But because he's good at multiple levels, he's untied like Surface 2 SA, and going for other world records. That it's sort of like it's sort of like when Nadal plays tennis, right? Everyone thought he was like a clay specialist, but when he started winning Wimbledon, the US
I
Open,
like
he's
that
like,
analogy.
he's just really good. So I think that's how I would think of it.
Mm-hmm. Would you concur with that, Repo?
I mean, I pretty much agree with it. The guy's an Arlene, I guess, master, for lack of a better term. That's for damn sure. I couldn't do that at all. I still don't know how that works. I've watched tutorials. I've tried to do it on my own, and it just boggles my mind that it's even possible. But yeah, but I guess I'm not surprised that he would be able to get a cradle sweep pretty quickly, especially with all the good tech for that level nowadays. Well, not good tech, but good strat information. Like, the tech is awful. That strat's still awful in my opinion, but
this is true.
You get what I mean.
I'm going to check my list again.
Well, let me just also add that perhaps why, besides the fact that Repo and I have these 90 plus points on these times, on these levels, is because control and train tend to be very complex and perceived to be very difficult levels, right? I think that's part of the reason why we both have that sort of reputation. If, let's say, I had a 90 plus times on, I don't know, Cradle, right? That wouldn't be super noteworthy, but the fact that it's on a very complex level where very few people play, it sort of enhances our reputation, I think.
Yeah.
That's true to an extent. I'm sorry to cut you off, Blue, but that's true to an extent. But they also have a guy like Chris, who's known for being the cradle man, who's still gunning for 32. So it's like a weird fine balance between the two. You know what I mean? I guess it just comes with notoriety and what you're known for.
Right.
And our times are a sore thumb enough for our such low rankings that that's what gave us notoriety.
So I mean, that seems like that seems like a decent jumping off point to ask. And starting with you, Perceptor, was it a deliberate choice? Did you know from the get-go that it's like control is my level and this is what I'm gonna do, or did it happen more naturally than that? Like, what's your story with control?
No, the truth is that I'm not a very good player. So like I was, when I first started playing a few years ago, I thought I would just be caking these times. Damn Agent 53 is so easy, but I was grinding that for a few hours, and I hadn't played, GoldenEye in many, many years. And I couldn't get it. I got like 54s, but I couldn't get 53s. So I was just trying to get points on any level. I'm just, please God, just give me a point on any level. And actually, it turns out Control 00 is, in my opinion, the easiest level to get any points on, which is kind of weird, right? It's certainly not the easiest level to complete, but because it's so underplayed and the perceived difficulty is so high, you really don't need that much to gain significant points on it. I think I got like 40 points on it in my first few hours, which is crazy. And so at that point, I'm like, okay, I'm reasonably good at this level, so I'm just going to keep playing it. And I eventually got to the point where I was decent enough where I was getting these 90 plus point times. So that's sort of where, how it happened. I was just really searching for what levels I could get points on. And it ended up being Control, where I ended up, being reasonably skillful at it. And, became the specialist on that level.
Well, I noticed in there you said it's got a very high perceived difficulty. Do you do you say that because you think that in fact it's not as difficult as people perceive it to be? And is that in fact where your name Perceptor comes from, in that you're able to see past that?
I say perceived difficulty because I think there's idea among new players that the most difficult levels, like Aztec 00, Caverns 00, Control 00, Jungle 00, are the most difficult levels to get points on. Actually, that's the inverse is true, I think. The most difficult levels in casual play, I think, tend to be the ones where you can get points fairly easily. it's the levels that are really easy and linear, like Dam Agent, like Streets Agent, that actually are much more difficult to get points on because so many people play it. Well, as for my name, it's actually Perceptor was part of the old Transformer cartoons. I don't know if anyone's old enough to remember that, but
Oh yeah, we
the
are. We definitely are.
that was a little bit before my time, but I actually watched the translations of it. So actually, I was born in the U.S. but grew up in China. So I watched the Chinese translations of Transformers, and when I came to the United States, I'm like, oh, I remember that cartoon, and I remember, Perceptor was sort of like, the brainiac scientist. So I'm like, that sounds kind of cool. So I just adopted that handle.
Okay. So what's the origin of Repo?
I honestly wish I could tell you. I've had I don't know, a vending machine's worth of aliases over the years, and this one is kind of stuck about a decade ago. So
Okay.
yeah, sorry I don't have that much of an interesting background.
Like you never actually worked as a Repo guy.
If I did, I probably wouldn't be talking to you right now.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Moving swiftly on. Would you agree with the assessment that actually playing something like Train 00 would be easier to get points than going for something like Down 53?
Oh man, this is a hard question to answer without inherent bias to that level. I agree with him in the sense that my first point was on Train 00. Somehow, I don't know how. I couldn't probably recommend anybody ever do that again for any good cause. I mean, I just kind of happened that way. But to this point, I kind of agree with that. My first completion control, I got like, I don't know, 40-something or 50-something points at the time back in 2020. And I think that was after like about maybe a year's worth of playing. Wasn't the best player, but then getting something like Dam Agent 53. I mean, I had 2.x problems and hardware issues, but that took forever to get. And I've said this is a joke, but it's also kind of a factual statement that I had an easier time getting Train Agent 102 than I did getting an Archives Agent 16. It's just, for me, that barrier of just like, you gotta get this 1 second and everybody has it. Yeah, sure, everybody has it, but it's still a pretty serious grind to cut off 1 second versus you're playing a level that has a lot less optimization on the ranks, and there's a lot more meat to cut off the bone, and so you just kind of shave away bit by bit by bit, and it's a little bit more rewarding in that regard, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, because I guess like the curve is a lot. Would you say it's accurate to say the curve is a lot shallower with stuff like this?
Well, I think it also comes down to execution. Like, yeah, you could say, again, going back to Archives, it's a very short level, but it's a very tight level, very intense level. You don't have a whole lot of room for error for a 16, but going back to the 102 example on Train, that's still 6 seconds away from the world record. Yeah, it's still an insanely good time. Don't get me wrong. Anybody who has anything below like a 105 on that level deserves some sort of recognition, but at the same time, it's still several seconds away from the world record. There's still a lot of time to burn. There's still a lot of more mistakes to be had. And yeah, it's a lot more complex, a longer level, but it's a lot more leeway to not performing at your best, is what I'm getting at.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That makes sense.
I mean, it's not really the typical view. Most players, myself included, you go for, I guess, no longer the boring 4, the previous boring 4, and then kind of branch off from there. But the boring 4 are like this barrier because of how much time it takes for you, especially as a newer player, not really familiar with the game, to get any of those times. So it's very, very interesting teeter-totter. But then you have a guy like Perna who came up the ranks just getting like a bunch of the times, such as Perceptor's outline of, 00 times, SA times, stuff where you can get a few points here or there. So it's weird, but you don't really see too many players who do that anymore. But it seems like it's starting to become more common with whatever players are still drip feeding into the game because, hey, points are points, right?
So would you say your journey is different or similar? In that, were you thinking, oh man, I don't want to get down 53. I want something easy. Let's go for Train 00.
No, God, no, not at all.
So tell us your train story. How did that happen for you?
Yeah, so I've been familiar with the Elite for 20 years. I'd known about it, never participated in it, never did anything other than maybe every 3 or 4 years, just kind of out of curiosity, checking out what's going on, because I was kind of fascinated with the development process for GoldenEye. And you see these early 2000s times the guys like Wilder and Boss just annihilating the game, and back then it's like, how do these guys do it? Like, this shouldn't be doable.
Well, like, were you like aware of that, like as it was happening, like the mid 2000s?
Not so much as it's happening, more like as after it happened, just watching old speedrun.com videos, seeing stuff like that, like these guys just destroy the game. So I had these figures in the back of my head, and then a few years ago, actually, wow, more than a few years ago, I'm going on like maybe 6 or 7 years ago, I was playing some Golden Age arcade games at a really high competitive level. I made a lot of progress in a short order of time, so I had a lot of confidence that I could pretty much play whatever and do whatever. And Speedlore pops up on my YouTube feed. I recognized some of the names I mentioned earlier, so I'm like, I'll check this out, and started watching them. And then one came on for, I believe, Train Agent, and Goose started talking about Clem's NTSC 1 minute and how difficult it is and how you should view it in this prestige. And I just kind of, I could get that. We'll give it a shot, and it's been a downhill slide ever since.
All right.
Yeah.
I find it interesting that it was the NTSC record, of all things, and literally just because he said it was hard, that was all it took you to be like, I'm going for this.
Pretty much, I wanted to challenge myself because again, I felt pretty confident and I guess cocky a little bit, having done really well at a really old game in such short order, that I'm like, I could handle this. But then, I learned that was a big mistake real quick.
That was going to be the next question. So to what extent do you feel as though that confidence was deserved?
Can I actually have a debt on confidence? Is that possible?
Sure.
Yeah, geez, I regret that.
Okay. All right. But I mean, I feel like that's not quite fair, because I mean, like, when did you get it?
I got it 2020, November 2020, but I had a hard drive space issue, lost the video, and had to dupe it again like 3 months ago.
Was that
4 months ago now.
Was that enjoyable, having to dupe it?
Second time around, actually no, it wasn't enjoyable either time. That level is horrible.
Okay.
It's really, really difficult. And I don't know how he did it with those strats back then. I couldn't do that.
Right. Oh, so you did it with newer strats?
Yeah, I just did it the way I knew how to play the level. He didn't really do as much guard management back then, and no killing the first couple of guards, which just makes the lag unbearable at the end. And it's pretty damn remarkable that he got it.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'd all agree with that to 100%. To go back to your Perceptor, do you time your sessions? And if so, do you have any kind of idea as to how much time you've put into Control?
Oh, it's a good question. I used to grind a lot more. Put like 3 or 4 hour sessions. I don't grind like marathon like 12-hour sessions like some people. But Control, maybe I don't think it's more than a couple dozen hours.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, maybe like maybe like 50 hours. Just because for me, I just can't spend too much time on it, which is also why I avoid all the linear grindy levels, right? Like once I figure it out, I couldn't get Damn Agent that easily. It's like, all right, I'm just not going to waste my time on it. So I would think, yeah. So nowadays, I'll try to play like 1 or 2 hours per week. It's not that much, unfortunately, but I still have goals of improving the time.
Yeah, I mean that was gonna be the next question, but yeah, I want to go back. So basically, you got what, top 5 times on? No, sorry, looking at this, top 4 times on Control Secret and Double O Agent, like in 50 hours. That's pretty impressive, dude. Like, I'm not gonna lie. And then,
well, yeah.
Sorry, yeah. You go. I'm just looking at the time, because I remember You had a comment there, but yeah, sorry, you go for it.
No, no, no. I was just gonna say, like, because if you think about a control seeker and double agent, there's only about, I think, maybe 40 or 50 seconds where you're actually winning or losing time. It's the start, and then it's going from the drone room to the big room, and you add that together, it's like 50-ish seconds. So it's not that much time. And then going from the drone room to the big room, that's like, little bit of luck. It's not that difficult to learn. It's really the start. If you can get a fast start, like before the elevator closes on that, um, that's how you can get better and better time. So, like if you look at it, really control is like a 20-second level, right? Almost. Um, so it's sort of like, someone could, I think, get like archive 16 and 50 hours of grinding, I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it was control SA and double O. It was just a matter of getting the start down. And the first time I was able to get like a fast start, that was really exhilarating. And when I can get that more consistent, I could get maybe a fast start every few minutes. You can make that. You can take a lot more risks, right? So you do like really risky glass break or some more risky strat. That's how you push the time down. But like for me, it's almost like control is like just a 20-second level with a lot of luck thrown in.
So I've just found the comment that I was looking at. It's if you're 00405, and it says got 407 after around 10 hours, then 405 after another 20 minutes. So you really actually haven't spent that much time on this level.
Oh man, SA is very enjoyable to play because the protect is easy. Double O is just hell, as you die so much on good runs at the protect. But yeah, like I think I streamed the 407. To be honest, I was on Twitch streaming it, and I had like one viewer.
Uh-huh.
And then 20 minutes later, I stopped streaming, and I got 405. And I was like, wow, that's really lucky. I just like cake the time. So just gonna stop there and just keep lowering my essay time when I can. So maybe I'm underestimating 50 hours, maybe closer to like 70, 80 hours, but it's not that much time. I know a lot of people, spend much
More than
time on
50
a single
hours.
stage, right?
Yeah.
Right? Like I can't think of on top of my head, but like maybe hundreds of hours on like a single stage lowering by a second. So I mean that is impressive to me, but I I just can't do that.
Okay. Right. Well, yeah, Sean. Same two questions for you. Do you time your sessions, and do you have any ideas to how long you've spent on the stage?
Oh God. Um, no, and if I did, I'd probably quit playing.
Okay,
Uh,
good strategy then.
yeah, I've put way too much time in this level. The problem is I got into the chasing the dragon mindset, and the level teases you with like, oh, I got this insane world record pace, even though I have like a 103 on agent. That means I can get the world record. No, it doesn't mean you can get the world record. It means that you can possibly pace that one every 5 million runs. And I was foolish enough to chase it like that, thinking I could get it, and that was the furthest thing from the truth. But I'd have no idea how much time I put in a level. Too much time. But what I would do is I would play maybe PB on it, then go play something else and come back, just kind of shuffle it around because I don't think, number one, I don't think playing that level that much, or any level for that matter, non-stop without anything else is healthy. I've seen too many people and know too many guys who've just crumbled doing that and they don't really get anywhere. And I just can't do it either. I tried doing it on a double O to get the world record, and after 4 months, I was done with Goldeneye. It's hard. It's very, very hard to do it. And the guys who can do it and are successful, I gotta tip my hat to them. That's not an easy
Well,
feat.
like to pick up on that Perceptor, like so I mean, it sounds like you've got a similar attitude. You're not the kind of person who will just grind and grind and grind and grind, like yourself down to the bone. You'll play to just the point at which you feel like you're I don't know still enjoying the game, and then just move on to something else.
Well, the truth is that when I got my essay in double O times, I think that was a couple years ago. And I think that if I had kept my previous life situation, I probably would have grinded more. I'd for sure have like 403 and 404 by now. But in that time, I got married and had a kid, so I just can't grind
Yeah,
anymore
but
as
that
much
makes
as
a
I used to.
difference, right?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, I gotta say, congratulations, congratulations, man.
Oh, thank you,
If
thank you.
if it's a choice between control world records and that, like, I mean, I think you made the right choice.
Yeah, that's probably more important.
Um, well, I mean, and so uh, you were saying a Perceptor that the you still plan on lowering it at some point, even though your life situation's changed. Like, it's still your ambition.
Yeah, yeah. I think just seeing improvement to me is really just gratifying. For example, when I first watched, this is before I got my SA and double O times. When I watched Aces 403 and 404 using, the old strat, I was the Untied for many years. I was like, how is that even possible, right? How is it possible that Ace can like this time is just like inconceivable? But now that I've grinded and I got like 404 using the same strat, I'm like, what? If I grind like 50 more hours, I'm pretty sure I could get 403 and 404. But now it got lowered to 401, so it's also the target moved further away. I don't know if I could ever get 401. Maybe if I grind like 1,000 hours. But I've had 403 starts where I die in the protect. I've had those heartbreaker runs. I'm sure Repo has had as well.
Oh
Um,
God, you have no idea.
yeah, definitely. So.
Um, well, and would you tell us a little bit about those heartbreakers for you, Repo? Anyone
Sure.
come to mind in particular?
Yeah, I could. Well, let me think of a better way of rephrasing it. I've paced 147 at least a dozen times on double O on train 8 on train double O, and I paced 55 at least 15 times on agent. So
Always dying to the logs.
dying to some, dying to me being an idiot and running into a wall, dying to a guard playing offensive lineman, dying to something. So
Okay, so yeah, so it's at the point now where it's like you don't even kind of know the heartbreakers by name at this point. There's just too many to be in anything in particular.
yeah, I've had my heart ripped out and stepped on so many times. I'm numb
No,
to it.
okay.
Yeah, I think after a while, probably in general for any time in this game, the more numb you are, the less nerves you have, the more possible it's for you to get whatever time you're going for. And thankfully, that's not too common when I do play the level these days.
To what extent is that the case with you, Perceptor? Do you like do you feel as though you're kind of good enough at the? I mean, I know everyone's going to have nerves on like the run, but I mean, control especially, as you were saying with double O. Like, do you still really feel the nerves towards the end, or do you feel like you've kind of got to the point where you've got that under control?
Yeah, I definitely feel that. So I don't know if Repo, you feel this, or even Blue or anyone listening. Like when you're on the run, and on a level as long as Control, well, maybe Control is special because you know the pace of your run by the time you let Nat see you, right? You open the door, and there's a music cue I listen for. So I know the pace of the run at that point. So if I know I'm on like 403 pace, and you got to do 2.5 minutes of the protect with those nerves, and it's actually um, really anxiety inducing because if you're on low health, one shot and you're dead, it is really nerve wracking. Like my arms would go numb sometimes. The good thing about control though is that during the protect you can actually pause, right? So I actually
Yeah.
to get my nerves back down, like I'll pause, like go to the bathroom, have some water, come back in like 10 minutes, like try to finish the run
Wow, dude.
sometimes. 'Cause that's the luxury of having a 2.5 minute protect sequence where the time is basically it's an auto scroller at that point.
Right,
So
right.
it's not terrible, but I think that's the good thing about control.
That's actually very cool. Like I hadn't thought about that. And do you find that it helps when you can take that break and you come back?
Yeah, of course, I actually have to quick pause a few times because, when you're pausing, guards can just
Yeah, of course.
materialize out of thin air and start shooting at Nat. And, I've lost many runs that way. Like, I was on a 402 pace run, got to the end, and then a guard just pops out of nowhere, Black Hat guard, and just shoots me, and boom, game over, right? So I got to be careful with that. But, like, on these, when I'm on a good pace, got a lot of health, I'll just, pause and take a little stroll and come back. It's not a big deal.
That's very cool. That's very cool to find out. I wanna actually step back a little bit from these crazy times and like the heartbreakers that you could have gone even lower. To go back to maybe I'll start with Repo on this one. Was there some particular point where you take act as the threshold when you actually realized I'm actually capable of doing something really exceptional with this level?
Well, there's two answers there. There's the fool's gold approach that I mentioned before, where I was ignorant enough to think that because, one of a million runs is super fast, I got this. And that happened around probably when I had, I guess, an Agent 103, 104 around there. But in reality of, actually like, okay, this can possibly happen now is probably last November when I got to 58 on Agent.
Right.
But even then, I had to spend a lot of time relearning how to do the ending to make it viable. And I don't know, this level's a pretty mean bastard. No matter what you do, it just seems like there's something you have to upkeep, otherwise you're gonna start bleeding out runs and losing them all the time. It's really weird.
What was it about the 58 that makes you say that?
That I think that was like, I can possibly do this.
Yeah.
Well, it's because to get any lower, I had to change a lot of how I was playing, and I was aware of it. I had to change a lot of strats I used. I had to change a lot of approaches I used. I knew about it for a while. I didn't want to do it. It's a lot of work. And 58 was a point of, make or break. I could either go for it and fix all the stuff I want to do, or I could just leave it alone. And yeah, I decided to fix it, and that's how I got 57. And it took a long time to get, and it's a product of refining all the issues that I had getting to 58. So it's about that time is when I realized that, all right, it's now possible now that I cleaned up my ending specifically and got way more consistent at doing the locks.
So would you say that it's accurate that like before then you were pursuing like a particular strategy and you were able to just kind of get away with that, but for the 58 you had to kind of break yourself down to a certain extent and relearn certain things and reevaluate a lot of things, and that was the biggest change. Would that be a good way of describing it?
I think you'd say that for 57, 58 was about, this is as far as I can go, getting away with half-assing several parts of the level.
Right, alright, I got you.
And yeah, I realized that looking back, I got pretty lucky at how I used to do the ending strat. I mean, I don't want to get too far in the weeds with, what was wrong and what I was doing, but I had to relearn from the last two breaks all the way through to the actual ending, how I do the locks and all that. It was a lot to figure out and go over, but
worth it ultimately.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I mean, I think so. I hope so.
Well, I mean, you got the 57 out of it, so I mean, I would say so.
That's true, but it also wasn't exactly a cakewalk even after that stuff was corrected.
Well, yeah, I guess not.
I still don't get how the hell Mark got 57 without any ever drives or practice ROMs and just being Mark.
Well, you just had to practice. You could only practice any part of the level just by doing the level, basically.
Yeah, but I guess it also explains why Mark's marked. He just does stuff like that. Not to take anything away from Henrik either, but I mean, fuck, they're both just mind-blowing. Right? Yeah.
So I'd ask the same question for you, Perceptor. Like, was there a particular kind of before and after point for you on control?
Yeah, in terms of like improving at the level.
Or just no, like the point, like, I mean, yeah, the point at which you thought, wow, I think I'm actually going to be capable of something like of some really exceptional times on this level.
Yeah. I think it was the first time I got a fast start, right? So, like when you complete the big room, the first drone room, there's like a semi-fast start where you go back to Natalia and the message pops up, but the elevator door closes on her before she can actually get out. That loses you like 4 or 5 seconds,
Mm-hmm.
and it's actually a big hump to get over it because she could be looking at you and the door starts to close, or she could be looking at you and then the door's already closed like half a second later. But in order to get a fast start where she exits, you got to complete. You got to kill 7 guards and the drones. I think in like, I think the door is only about 18 seconds before it closes. So when I did that the first time, I'm like, oh my god, right? If I can, finish the rest of the run, that's like a 4:0, 4:07, 4:08. Of course, I didn't complete that run, but the fact that I could do that and then do that more consistently means that I could get more of these runs. Very quickly after that, I started lowering my times to 90 plus points. And we didn't actually talk about Agent as well. Agent is much more grindy, right? Because it's much easier.
Right.
And
Yeah.
like, and of course, Ace gets 355, which is just like Repo said, like mind blowing. But 356 was a record for a long time, and of course, I played for 356. But I'm like, even 357 for me took a bit of grinding. I'm like, I don't know if I could shave off another second because it's just really really grindy. Like how fast can I really do the start? Because so many people have played Agent compared to SA and Double O. So once I got 357 on Agent, and then for the SA and Double times I could get the fast start. That was when I was like, you know what? I feel like I can make a good impact on this level. So that was the point.
Right. I mean, yeah. I think there's only like 6 or 7 people who've got 356. Like, it's a really difficult time.
Very grindy, yes. And again, I try to avoid the grindy levels. I find SA and Double O, just much more interesting to play, in terms of just enjoying myself.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. So I'd ask maybe a slightly kind of similar, but like slightly different question. And it may be that the two questions actually coincide. So I might get back to your Repo. For you, what was or has been the most difficult, the kind of like darkest moment in the grind for you?
For me,
Well, sorry.
So
Go
yeah,
ahead,
I was gonna go Repo first.
okay, just making sure that we're on the same page. I too was a bit lost.
Sorry.
Darkest
My
moment.
bad.
It's all good. It's all good. We're still here, but darkest moment for me in that grind.
Yeah. Or in just the train grind in general.
Trying to think. Pretty much going for sub 150 on Double O sucked my will to play GoldenEye, and made me really reevaluate how I approached the game. And
What was it about it that was so difficult?
that level sucks. Straight up, it sucks. It's very unforgiving. You can play perfectly. You can have flawless execution, and the guards will just say, "Nah, no, it's not happening," and turn you into Swiss cheese, or even one back boost. Like I think the 149 I posted had one back boost, and I'm gonna go ahead and cope and say that one back boost cost me 148. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't, but
That's gotta be
that
guilty.
level, right? But that level in particular, it doesn't reward consistency. It's like all the RNG factors from other levels that are already kind of bad, except for it's all on the guards just blocking you from the end. It's shooting you, knocking you off your lines, killing you. You kind of gotta pray for those God Run RNG moments. Like I think I mentioned, I paced 147 several times. I'm sure other people have too. I know other people have, so it's not that crazy of a feat. It's just being able to get, I don't know, what I call the God RNG that allows you to do it. It's so remarkably uncommon that if you can get a run out of that, it shows how, consistent you are, because it just never happens. And when it does, you got to be ready for it. It's like you pretty much have this tiny window, maybe a couple times, sometimes 0 times in the session, and you just got to go for it. And it's very, very hard to go for it, especially having to deal with the guards with way more health, especially those, that elite guards with the hats and the black suit.
The blue hat guards, especially.
They just don't die on Double O. They don't, and you get blocked by them a lot. Even the agent easy guards, like the gray ones where you just run through, they start to become bullet sponges. It's just a whole conglomeration of everything's a lot worse for you condition-wise. Lag's higher too, can't forget that. And then on top of that, even if you successfully kill Oromov and, Natalia doesn't decide to feign death to get out of your run, you have to complete the locks. And then you have to go outside and not die on your way to the little alcove.
I'm starting to get the picture, I think.
Yeah, I think at one point when I was really starting to lose it on that grind I did, I made just write down every single choke point where something could go wrong outside of my control. I got to 25 before I just quit playing that day. So yeah, it's just a very, 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 very unforgiving level, and trying to grind that exclusively for 4 months was just, that had to have been my darkest moment.
I just got a message from Lucas. He says train double OPB is his only real goal when he next plays GoldenEye. That's enough even for the best players.
Yeah, it's true. I watched him actually try to PB on Double O as well. It's comforting to know that you're not alone in how much you struggle. Like, okay, everyone else is this way too, but it's also heartbreaking to see someone else also struggling to get any kind of PB.
Okay, well, how about the other side of the coin of that question then? So you said to get sub 50, but ultimately you did get it. So how did you push through?
Sub 50, I don't know. I just kept going because I saw you know what? I can possibly do this in the right run. Just kept going. I have no idea. I just went for it because I guess I saw it as a gateway to 148, and I underestimated how much stars aligning went into getting it.
So you feel like part of the motivation was actually misguided, as in you thought it was more out there than it was?
Pretty much, especially when you see that Henrik skipped 149 entirely.
Right.
But then that just goes back to what I said earlier. Sometimes you just get flawless RNG and you're able to capitalize on it.
Right, got it.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask the same question, but as you say, you don't really like grinding, so maybe there weren't any. Were there any particularly difficult moments for you, or did you just think?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was when I was playing Double O, and my record was 408. So a 408 on Double O with a fast start it's pretty slow. 408 is a minimum you should be able to get with a fast start. Or normally, if you have a decent path to the big room, it's more like a 406. But I was grinding for a couple days. I just couldn't even get a completion on Double O. Because compared to SA on Double O, you get back boosted at the crate hall way more often. The explosion where you're doing the glass break will kill you many more times, and even if you happen to survive all of that, you still have to survive the protect, and the guards can just pop out of nowhere just from thin air and start shooting at you, and there you go. That's a bar of health gone. So for 10-ish hours, 20-ish hours, I just couldn't even get a completion because I kept dying at the protect or something went wrong. Even if you watch Aces, world record now, and the 402 on Double O, he gets really lucky at the glass break and ends up with a ton of health. So if you're doing that and you don't have health, it's almost certain that you're going to die at the protect. So I was just grinding, and I think that was my dark moment. I couldn't even get a completion because I was just dying so much. which made double O way more grindy than I wanted it to be. And thank God I was able to clutch out the 405. I thought that was going to be a 406.
Well, yeah,
and
yeah.
I
I
was
mean,
just
so
gonna
I
be done.
mean that was going to be the question again, like same question. Yeah, if you're going like 20 hours without a complete, like so, yeah, like how did you get through to the other side of that without just being like, forget this, I'm not doing it.
Well, because I knew that if I could just get a fast start, which the fast starts on double O are just as easy as they are in SA, or just as difficult. If I could just get that and get a decent path to the big room and survive protect, I know that's at least the 406. So just putting the pieces together, I know I'm capable of doing all those things. I just have to survive the protect.
Right.
And so I was able to do that. And hopefully I could time the exit just right. I think I got boosted into the elevator on that run. It was either my SA or double O, but yeah, I finally got it together after like 20-ish hours, and yeah, that was the 405. I saw the screen. I thought it was gonna be 406. Saw 405. I was like, just drop my controllers. Like, I'm done. That was
Okay.
it.
Right. Yeah, makes sense. Um, um, would you say that that's your proudest PB on the level on all three difficulties?
No, 357 is
Oh
because
damn. Okay.
I think getting 404 and 405 was easier than getting 357 because on reasonably fast runs on Agent, and again, Agent is much grindier. Um, I thought I'd be getting a pretty decent run. I just look at the screen, it's like 359. I'm like, what happened?
Right.
So I kept getting at it. It's like, if I could just get 357, that'd be great. And if you'll notice, the 357 doesn't actually look that fast, at least in my opinion. So I was absolutely shocked when that was a 357. I thought it was a 359. So I don't know how the game works at that level. Like, I know there's some luck elements, like how fast Nat sees you, the angle she turns, but I guess everything had to align. You got 357. I do not ever want to grind for that again, let alone 356.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, if it's anything, it's going to be SA.
Yeah, I miss. Should have mentioned Markadam's quote earlier, where apparently like 356 was one of Clem's longest ever grinds, and that means something. So yeah, I can.
Oh.
I take your point. Um, so what about you? What about you, Repo? What would you say is your proudest PB?
Probably 57 at this point on train.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
It's yeah, I mean, I still don't really believe I have it. Not because I feel like imposter syndrome, I don't deserve it. It just feels like it's such a blur because of how much work I had to put in to get it, that it kind of feels like, I don't know, did it really happen or not?
Right.
It's just really, really odd. It's an incredibly significant time, but yeah, it's so bizarre to know that not only is next second possible, but a couple more are possible on that level when you get to that point.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to
But
get kind of dizzying, like thinking about what those kind of runs would look like.
yeah, absolutely, and just gotta not lose sight of it, I guess. I mean, that's one thing that not necessarily has bothered me, but something that's always kind of stuck out to me is you get these players that are just, what's that whole, I guess it's almost a meme at this point, like, oh, that was a shit run. It's like, it was a shit run, but it was like 1 second off the world record. Why? I couldn't do that. I mean, you gotta still think in that, mindset of taking yourself out and kind of viewing it from the outside perspective of, yeah, you may think that, or no, not that great of a run from your very, I guess, trying to think of the best way to phrase it. Like in your very dopamine burnt out grind perspective, but if you look at it objectively, it's like, no, that's still really ridiculous. You got that time.
So
So it's like a
I'd
weird
be interested
balance.
to. Sorry. You finish.
No, I'm done. I got that.
Right. I'd be interested to know to what extent you feel the same, Perceptor. Like when you watch your runs, do you think oh man, what a great run, or did you think, oh my god, look how much time that I lost?
Yeah, I think we all have to, once your standards are set so high, It really is more of the second because, man, like for example, in my essay run, I remember I had I accidentally threw a mine, I think, on my way to the glass break, and right, I missed the B press on the door, or something like that. And when I watch run, that's like all I can see.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like you notice these imperfections in your runs, and it's like if I grind, if I buy enough lottery tickets and I get on a good run, maybe next time it won't happen. But yeah, when I look back at my runs, like I just see like where I can improve. I don't know if that's the attitude that everyone else holds, but at least for me that is.
I'm gonna go ahead and say I think that's the attitude everybody has. Like for doing any sort of endeavor, be it creative, professional, whatever, you will always notice your own flaws that maybe 99% of your audience wouldn't even pick up on unless it's glaring. You're your own worst critic.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And like when I was watching, like for example, I was watching when Carl was grinding for 52, right? And he'd get like 3 53s in a row. He would just casually, keep going. I'm like, dude, I can't even get 53. But now I kind of get it. Now that I'm, just if I can get like 406 pretty easily. But trying to lower that is the tough part. So I definitely get it. You always see these imperfections.
It's interesting you say that too, because I've talked to a few guys who are always just like blaming RNG or blaming outside factors in their runs, and then you look, it's like, okay, what's your PB on this? Like, well, geez, you're still like within top 5 of this level, and you're complaining that RNG is keeping you from your world record, yet RNG is not keeping you from whatever 94 pointer time you just keep duping over and over and over again. It's kind of like a weird balance of, yeah, you have that going for you, but at the same time, it's not good enough for the world record, but you're still consistent. It's really just, this game really screws with your head in that way.
It is really unforgiving, like you said. Once you get to that level, like you lose any bit of time, it's like, you're not in the running for the world record anymore. And yeah, I think unforgiving is the right word. Repo used it earlier, so that's how I would describe the grind sometimes.
So, well, when you just said, that on some runs you can do extremely well, but then not be in the running for the world record anymore. So I definitely like to ask. I mean, what I think quite a few people would like to ask. So, do you? Are you still planning on going lower and potentially, I don't know, going for a record? Starting with you, Perceptor.
Yeah, I so it's funny. So I have my TV set up in my basement, and that's also where I go to work out. So when I do that, sometimes I'll just like play some Control, do a set, and go back. So when I'm doing that, I'll just grind SA. I think one day I will go for we'll get 403 or 402 when I'm doing that. But double O, like I said, the double O feels much more grindy, let alone agent. So if it's anything, it's 403. But 401, man, I don't know if that'll ever happen unless there's some new strategy that comes out. Because I mean, you can just watch aces run. Like, look how fast to start. I've never gotten to start that fast. So I don't know if I could do that, but I think 403 is definitely doable.
And is that pure skill? Is that just because ace is just inhumanly good, or is it like any luck factors, or what?
Well, it's like you'd think that ace got a 401 because of the new Nat like angling strat, where you shoot her leg early, but like that didn't really help in that run. So it's almost like you got a 401 with the old strat. But yeah, ace is just a complete robot, not human. So I don't think I'm getting there, but I think in the end of the day, I'm just really competing with myself. It would be nice to get the world record, of course, to do like the playing the untied, but I think 403 is probably as far as I'm gonna go. If I get that, maybe I'll come back and say, yeah, I'm getting 402 now.
Yeah, I mean, it could be that you get it, and then getting that time opens up like the realization of how far lower is possible. But I mean, 403 alone would be pretty insane. I think we'd all still love to see that. And so yeah, Sean, what about you?
Well, to go back to what Perceptor just said, yeah, I think that's the trick too in maintaining your sanity through these ridiculous grinds is you're competing with yourself ultimately. If you keep that as your focal point, like I know it's a checks and balances system of still like you have this stupid time, but at the same time you're still trying to better yourself. If you could somehow manage a way to teeter-totter that, keeping it okay, then you can possibly, survive these ridiculous grinds, at least in my opinion and my experience doing it. Because if you're not, you're just trying to beat someone else. Sure, you can do it. Sure, it's going to feel great. But at the same time, it also could lead to faster burnout, faster fatigue. And like, I expected to do this. Why is it this guy could do this and I can't? And then you start falling down the pit. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. And so just yeah, that's an interesting way of just. I mean, it's interesting that you've both come to that conclusion that ultimately, like, competing with yourself, like, is the best attitude to have.
Yeah. But to get back to your question,
yeah, I was just gonna say, yeah, ask.
Yeah, I'm gonna go for 56 on Agent. I don't know what's gonna happen after that, but I'm gonna go for that at least. I think I have a pretty good shot.
Mm-hmm.
Not a great shot, but I could at least see the light at the end of the tunnel, even if it's still a mile out. I can see something. But I've learned not to expect anything. Like, don't feel entitled. If it happens, it happens. I've been burned so many times on any grind for this game, feeling entitled to I should have this time by now, and just blowing up in my face. So yeah, that's my approach. And it's funny, Perceptor mentioned working out when he plays runs. I sometimes will try to do productive things every so often to try to give myself the illusion of I'm not just sitting here grinding for God knows how many hours a session. So that's really funny to hear that someone else does it.
Damn, that's cool.
I literally sit on the bench that I use to do bench press as well. It's the same bench that I use to. I have the CRT like just on the side. That's how I play. Like sometimes I'll pause during the protect and just do a set.
So I'm sure that you also set up the incline too when you're getting really serious and want to focus in.
Yeah,
So
the pump helps.
And then to get some back support, that's pretty great.
Wait, so what kind of stuff? What kind of stuff will you do, Repo, when you're trying to feel productive?
Do the same thing, or I'm kind of self-employed at the moment. Maybe take care of something in that area. Work on some art projects, music, stuff like that. Like every so often, you break up the monotony of a run. It got to the point where, I started catching myself playing way too much, and I'm like, all right, I gotta at least do something about this. So I just used like an actual, regular dice to die, and I wrote down 6 things I could do, and then every so often I'd roll one and do it before taking another run.
Right. That's cool. Yeah, that makes sense. Like, I mean, I think that's cool to hear because, yeah, when you see times like that, you think, oh man, what kind of like degeneracy must these people have put themselves through to get these times? But I think that's cool. That's cool to hear.
However, I'm going to cut you off there. But then it becomes a question of, am I not focused enough to get the time I need to do? And I have experience doing that. Like when I got 44 in Facility Agent, once I realized that I'm like not paying that much attention to the runs and I should be paying more attention to it, and started focusing in. I got the time within like a couple days versus spending a whole bunch more weeks kind of half-ass pacing it, if not better. But then once I'm like, all right, I just got to dial in, be able to get it. So again, it's another balancing. I guess this whole game is just this weird balancing act. I don't get it, but there's also that side of the coin.
To what extent would you agree with that? But do you find that that's the same Perceptor, that you'll be able to play reasonably well when you're doing other stuff, but you feel like you need to really laser focused when you're really really going for something, or are one of these kind of people who you can stay relaxed and stay casual and still do your best playing?
Yeah, I think even just in casually, it's sometimes I'll go do a session and it's very casual. Like actually, my favorite level to play on Goldeneye is actually Silo Agent, but I'm not very good at it. So my best time is still 105. But like if I'm just playing casually, like I'm not really going for good times. Like I do find that I don't really get good times. It's really when I do focus on the really lowering my times that I get good runs. Like another example, like I've wasted a lot of time playing out runs in control, where I know it's not pace, and that wastes a lot of time because that's like 3 extra minutes that you waste not restarting the runs.
Is that just for practice or?
Yeah, it's for practice, but also because I do enjoy playing the level. Like I do enjoy even after hundreds or thousands of runs on control, I still enjoy doing the protect.
That's really good to hear.
Yeah, which is really what keeps me going. Like if I didn't enjoy playing SA, like I would just not play it. Which is why I really just don't want to play Double O anymore or Agent. It's really SA that I play, which I find the most enjoyable. So that's where I grind the most. So yeah, like if I think part of it is if you do start focusing and you really want lower times, it does take some enjoyment out of it. But I do want to get 403. Because that would tie Ace's 403 from old strat, which has always been a goal of mine. Right? Because I remember I saw that time, I was like, how is this possible? To know that I would be able to get it, I think would be a great long-term goal.
And so, do you plan to get it with the old strat?
Yeah, the new strat, just I don't know, it doesn't work for me. Like I can't get the timing right, and I feel like it's not that much faster. Like I look at Ace's run, like it didn't really help him that much on SA, so I feel like 403 is definitely doable. Just using the old strat, it's a lot safer and more consistent. I don't want to play like a god run where I'm like on 402 pace and just mess up the timing or get shot by a guard and just miss the mind throw.
Mm-hmm.
So I think just getting it more consistent, I can take more risks as well. I think that's the path forward to 403. But if you're gonna get 402 or 401, I think you would need to do the new strat probably.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
Got you. And I want to go back to something you were saying, Repo, that you were saying that, I'm grinding for like 56 and even though on some great runs, like, I still notice, oh man, I messed that up and that could have been better and that could have been better and stuff. And then you said something like, I can see that even though I'm trying to shave off, I can still see like another second, like another 2 seconds that could come off. So, like, what do you think are the max times possible for a train?
Train Agent or all three?
Let's start with Agent.
53.
That sounds that would be a pretty good time to get, I imagine. Can you go into a little bit as to what makes you say that?
It's not reasonable. Probably not going to happen. I mean, never say never, but based on what I've known to be fastest runs, fastest locks, putting them together would be 53. Getting the star stone line like that, better off playing the Powerball. But
okay.
It's possible. It's not reasonable. Possible.
Okay. I mean, well, I know whenever someone says that, I go back to when the train world record would have been like 104 or something like that, and they would have said 56 is never going to happen in a million years. Do you feel like this is the same kind of situation, or could be the same kind of situation that it would just take somebody to grind for 1,000 hours for it, or do you really feel like it's more than likely humans will never get that time?
Hard question to answer, excuse me. I never say never in this game. I mean, how many times has that been proven wrong?
Yeah.
I can't say for sure. All I know is I'm not the guy to do it.
That's pretty fair answer. And what about SA and Double
O? Probably 120 on SA, maybe 121. I know Hendricks failed 121. I was just gonna say possibly 120. I've not played that much SA because I haven't learned the roller shot yet, and I'm not playing that level unless I'm doing that strat. Straight up, I'm not doing it. I'm not going down that path.
Ambitious.
But yeah, so I'd say 121, 100%, 120 maybe. I don't know. And I guess double O, 147 with the old strat's possible, but then if you're crazy and psychotic enough to do the Oro shot, possibly 146, 145, but this is all theoretical. Just like, yeah, I could sit here and say this all day, but to get any of these times to happen is so ridiculous that it's almost hysterical that I'm saying this because it's not reasonable. None of these are.
Yeah, that's true.
The only reasonable time of the three I've mentioned is the 121 in SA because Henrik has block fails on those. The other two, forget it. Who knows?
Okay. All right. So if I were to make the question slightly, if we were to weaken it slightly, if you had to be like, okay, if you had to guess what you think is going to be like what humans ultimately end up getting, rather than just something that you think is just a kind of theoretical pipe dream.
Someone's gonna get 54 on Agent. I don't know when. I don't know who. I don't know how. Someone's gonna get 54. Someone will get 54.
Okay. Damn.
I don't know about SA, and I don't know about Double O. Double O is chronically underplayed, but for good reason. It's a very, very brutal level, and go even below 148. To even go for the Oro shot, to even go for a run that's just inherently fast enough to push down another second, it's just, you gotta either luck into it or get in the most insane mindset going into it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you would guess, I'm realistic.
Probably 147. Probably 140. Someone will get 147 at some point eventually on Double O. I can't say anybody going lower than that. Just because, like I said earlier, I know a good handful of guys have paced 147 on Double O. It's possible, but it's not feasible, you know?
Same question to you, Perceptor. Like, what do you think is ultimately possible on Control?
I think Agent is maxed. I think 355 is, unless there's new strats that come out, is probably the limit. On SA, well, SA and Double O are pretty much the same, right? If it's, I think it's going to be the same limit on both. If you watch Ace's 401 and SA, it doesn't get any forward boosts after the crate. So if you add 2 forward boosts, which happens all the time, then you get a better angle on that. I think that's easily 400, which is insane to think about. But I think 400 is one of the likelier times, honestly, at this point, because all of the records are pretty insane. I think he could do it if he grinded it enough. He was actually pretty unlucky on that 401. He just happened to be really, really fast. The question is if 359 is possible on SA and Double O. Like,
what do you think?
I'm like same attitude as Repo. Is it's 120 possible in SA. Is 359 possible on SA and Double O Control? Like maybe with current strats, I think it's just barely possible. But I think 400 is the human limit. Let me put it this way.
What would it need? I was just gonna ask.
Well, you would take Ace's 401. You would add 2 forward boosts at the crates, and then an insane angle on that. I think that's sufficient for a low 400. I think. And then you would have to get a super extra rare boost in the generator room, and there's also some random elements as well, again how fast Nat reacts to you when you open the door for her. That's semi-random. The leave is also there's a small element of randomness to it as well. I felt this where I faced what I felt were similar runs, but they'd be 2 seconds away from each other. Right. I think if the stars aligned there, that could be a 359. If we had a billion people playing GoldenEye, playing Control SA as their full-time jobs and grinding away, I think 359 would be the record. But with this community, I think 400 is the limit.
Okay. All right. So I've got a couple of questions for you guys in like a slightly different vein. I'm just going to see to what extent we get any kind of agreement. So I'm going to ask this to both of you. Would you say that Henrik's train sweep is the best is the best untied sweep in the game? What would you say, Repo?
I don't know. It's one of those things where, again, using that word specialist, it's such a specialized sweep that, like, yeah, SA and Double O could get tied by Ace or Mark at any time, or Luke, or anybody within like earshot of it could do it. But Agent is so peculiar with the locks being the gatekeeper. It just makes it that much more ridiculous, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I have to look at the page, so get back to me on that one.
Okay, all right. Okay, so while that's happening, so I mean, I asked this question obviously Perceptor because you know there's obviously an untied sweep on your level as well. So I don't know whether you'd have thoughts as to as to where you think Ace's untied sweep ranks in terms of the others.
Yeah, that actually is pretty funny that, you know, the level that Repo and I are both specializing in, like train and control, they both have untied sweeps.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's also interesting because I think all 6 times are like tier 1 times, right?
Yep,
so
they are.
And it's like, wow, it's like, is the control sweep more insane than the train sweep? I mean, they're pretty equal. It's like, oh, well, let me say that when 403 and 404 were the SA and Double O records, like, I thought those would be like the records forever. And of course, I was wrong because when Clemens started grinding for them, like he got it pretty quickly. So there's a lot of hidden potential. It just tends to be underplayed. So I think that like if Clemens really started playing control for like 401 or 402, I do think 402 is probably the easier of the two to get. I think that is achievable, but I mean, for Train, honestly, like Repo, you might be the guy to untie it or untie Slay it. So I really can't say they're pretty even.
You had a chance to have a look. What do you think?
Yeah, there's only 3 levels in Goldeneye. We're just talking about Goldeneye here. Not going to get into Perfect Dark. That is a realm I don't understand. And not even going to pretend to understand. But in Goldeneye, there's 3 untied sweeps. Surface 1, Train, and Control, right?
Yep.
I have some insight on both Surface 1 and Control. I can't really... I don't know enough about Surface 1 to really discuss it at all. I know Callie's grinds are insane. I know Callie's techniques are insane. I know he spends a lot of time refining and figuring out the best way to go about it, then just playing the ever-loving hell out of it until everything's perfect. I don't know what's the best untied sweep because, I mean, it's hard to say. It's honestly a perspective sort of thing. Like, I could be biased and say, yeah, Train obviously is who's going to get 56, Agent. Or, at the same time, who's going to get any of these Surface 1 times? Yeah, everybody's a second off, but they're still insane.
Yeah, I mean, there's no Repo or Perceptor for S1.
Well, there was. His name was Callie. But, but same goes for Control. I know if Clem decides to go for any of those times, he's a pretty serious threat. I know he's expressed like Agent's awful before, but SA and Double O, he's a pretty serious threat there. But as far as the best, I have no idea.
I would agree. Like if Clem starts going, and I apologize, I think I dropped earlier a little bit, but if Clem goes for SA or Double O, I think seriously, like spend like a couple dozen hours into it. I think you could get 402 at least on Double O. 401 is just pretty demented. But I also think that's doable, especially seeing how, again, like even Ace's run is like imperfect, right? So, and again on Train, like Repo, you might be the guy to tie it.
I appreciate that again. So
yeah, man, we'll see. We'd all love to see that, dude.
It's a very big ask. I mean, don't let the leaderboards fool you. You might be 1 second away on that level, but Look how long it took Henrik to go from 57 to 56.
That's very true. Very true.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate the confidence, but no other way to do it than just to play,
yeah,
I guess.
I mean, a better way to just do it is just that I think everybody thinks that your achievement so far on the level of it, regardless of what happens, what you decide to do.
Right.
Like I think everybody respects well, I mean, what you've both done on the levels so much, but I mean, in this particular case, yeah, regardless of what happens in the future, I mean, I think everybody when they saw that 57, were just kind of like, wow.
It stopped being a meme time I would get on a level.
Right.
I kind of noticed that reaction too. It stopped being like, oh, this guy only plays one level, to being like, well, okay, maybe he's actually got something there.
Right. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people would agree with that. Just to go back to something you were just talking about, Perceptor, about the different times. Which of the 3 times of the current world records would you say is the strongest on Control?
Well, it's got to be Agent, right?
Just because it's maxed.
Yeah, it's maxed, and it's just so clean. Like, I don't see any more big places for improvement on Agent. Like, even if you added like an extra boost here and there, I think that's a very high 355. So it's still not 354, but you can clearly see imperfections on SA and Double O. And Double O is 1 second behind SA. We know that the same times are possible on both levels. And again, if you add like 2 crate boosts and like better angle on SA, like you can easily visualize a 400. Whereas for 355, I think that's the bottom.
Okay. Good answer. What do you think, Repo? What's the would you say is the best world record on train?
56 by a long shot.
Why by a long
Just,
shot?
Well, like I said earlier, you have to have a really specialized skill set to get it. And I didn't mention it earlier, and I feel a bit bad, but Mark's also, if he decides to play that level, he can give it a 6. Because it's Mark. I mean, look at how he's playing Facility Agent, getting 43s all the time and stuff.
I've been pretty astonished watching his 42 grind. His level of play is just on another planet.
If Mark wants it, he can get it. But 56 is definitely the strongest. But then again, Henry could untie 55 right now in post time. We don't know. He also is a bit of a, I guess, outside figure in the community. He's in, but he's also not.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of an unknown quantity. I mean, with all of his train times, like he was streaming, but then he didn't stream for a while, and then just bam, he just came back to the records.
I can relate to that. I planned on streaming for 148 and anything below 58, but the problem is, it's just this level in particular, it's so demanding. It's very hard to stream and go for those times. I get why he stopped doing it. It's so hard. Yeah. I mean, I had my stuff set up. I still do, but I can't do it. I cannot play that level well. Even interacting like on a voice call like this, I can't play well and interact like this. I mean, sometimes you can. You go in the flow state, but in general, it's just too chaotic. You know?
Perceptor, you mentioned that what was it? Your 407 was streamed. I know. Yeah. Do you find this the same, that you play better on stream or off stream?
I've only streamed like literally twice. It was just sort of an experimentation, but this was a few years ago, and it just so happened that the second time I streamed, I actually got a PB. But I do think that when I'm streaming, I probably play a little bit better just because I'm playing more seriously rather than just casually. I feel the slight pressure to go for a lower time, so I do feel like it's a little bit of a boost for me. But like talking to people while I'm playing, maybe only during the protect, like not during the start. I don't think.
Okay.
I mean, to elaborate a bit more, I can do it, and I have had good times doing it, but you get less opportunities doing it than you would if you weren't. Like,
fully focused.
It's one of those. There's a reason why not many guys actively stream train going for anything, I guess, above 90 points. It's really, really difficult.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, if you're trying to nail the locks on a 56 pace run, and like you're trying to talk about what you had for breakfast that morning, like yes, it seems like suboptimal. So yeah, I get what you mean. Um, I have a more general question that I think I wanted to ask, and it's just fairly blunt. To what extent would you disagree with the idea that mindset is a greater predictor of success than skill in Goldeneye? I'll start with you, Perceptor.
Oh, it's a good question. So, how much is mindset a greater
Predictor of success than skill.
skill? I think it is. Because well, your times are a function of several things, right? It is a function of your natural skill. It's also a function of how much time you spend, right? It doesn't matter if you're the most talented player in the world if you only spend 30 minutes a month playing GoldenEye, or if you're a mediocre player but you spend like many hours, you're gonna get better times. So the mindset to be able to grind, I think, is important. Um, and it sort of like balances out, right? Like the most talented tennis player is not going to be world number one if he doesn't practice. Have the sort of the champion mindset. So I do think that's important, but both are really ultimately necessary to get really good times. I think if you have the mindset, but maybe you're just a average to below average player, you'll still be able to get points, but probably not like world records. You really kind of need both to at the top.
Mm-hmm. Solid answer. What about you, Repo? Agree or disagree?
Well, before I get into that, I have a completely unrelated question for Perceptor. When it comes to learning, I don't know if you're going to ask this later, but when it comes to learning your strats, do you just figure them out or do you find forum posts? How do you go about that? I'm actually genuinely curious, especially since you're not really too involved in the community other than, forum posting.
Oh, I watched a lose tutorial on Agent, which is applicable to SA and Double, and then I watched I think
Oh,
Woda's his
okay.
tutorial as well, and that's really all I needed.
Tutorials, got it. That makes sense.
What about you, Repo? Did you ask the question for a particular reason? Like, what's your method? What's your approach?
Uh, uh, well, let's answer the mindset thing first. I think mindset's everything. I mean, if you're not having fun, why are you playing it? If you have a bad mindset and a bad attitude, it's going to be self-destructive.
What, like, no matter how many hours you put in?
Yeah, I mean, God, how many times have we seen any player, I'm not singling anybody out, they're posting dupes or something bad happens and they're acting like the world's coming to an end because of just all this just terror in their head and anger and frustration. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
At the same point, it could also be building up to the ultimate high if I got the time eventually. But at the same time, you got to wonder, like, why are you doing it if you're not enjoying yourself? It becomes in that, again, another balancing system of, do I really deserve this? Am I good enough for it? Or why am I doing it if I'm not having fun? It's a very weird psychological experiment. Hell, all speedrunning is, let's be real.
Yeah, that's a great way of describing it. Speedrunning is a very weird psychological experiment.
Yeah, we're not getting paid anything, but we want these good times and feel
Nonetheless,
proud of them, and to
yeah.
make a mark on this, ancient game at this point. But yeah, so I think mindset's everything. Skill, you can get away with having lower skill threshold. If you're having fun, who gives a shit if it takes you 500 hours to get a time?
There's
That
500
guy's
hours having
enjoying
fun.
himself. Yeah, he's having a good time. He's enjoying himself. He has a healthy, positive attitude about it. He doesn't care about being number one. He cares about getting these cool times and having fun doing it. That's the real winner of speedrunning, I think.
Mm-hmm.
If there is such a thing.
I mean, from what you said, Perceptor, like that seems to track pretty well, I would say.
Yeah, I think so. Like, when I fire up a session, like I'll just play like 20 minutes of Silo Agent, even though I know I'm not good at it. But I just love like that level because I love like running through guards, opening the doors. But I still can't get like an open door really at the last catwalk. But yeah, I mean that's the reason why I still play control essays because, like I said, even after thousands of runs, I just enjoy playing it, and why actually play out my run, even though I know they're not pace, because I still, for some reason, still just enjoy playing that level.
That's cool. That's really cool to hear. That, like, yeah, because I mean, obviously, before, I mean, we had this chat. I mean, I just kind of, thought of you as the, control aficionado. So it's kind of funny that you say Shadow Agent is your favorite level, and you just like spending time on that just because it's fun. That's cool. That's cool to hear. I like that attitude a lot. I just have a couple more questions. This one is I know a different kind of tag as well. Starting with you, Perceptor, like what do you have any kind of reaction to just being known as? I mean, as I just said, the control guy, being like a level specialist, and like, are you aware that that's kind of how you're seen in the community?
No, I actually was, maybe like tangentially aware, but I mean that's a, cool reputation to have. I think that specialization is actually a very good sign that the community is mature, because early on when Wouter and Boss were just dominating everything, sort of like it was still in the early days. But you think about it, as more players get into the game, even if you're really good, you don't have time to grind everything, right?
Yeah.
Like if you only have 1,000 hours to spend, and you spend 1,000 hours divided by 60, each stage, you're gonna get pretty good times. But if one guy is a specialist, he spends 1,000 hours on like a single stage, he's gonna get better times. He's gonna get untied. So I think specialization overall is a great sign that the maturity of a community. And yeah, definitely cool to have that reputation. Hopefully I can say maybe in the future that I would not be a specialist anymore because I have better times on other levels. But we'll see.
It's funny you say that because there's that Bruce Lee quote. What is it? I fear not the man who's practiced 10,000 kicks once, but I fear the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times.
Yes.
Yeah, it boils
It's a
down
good
to that.
quote.
It really is.
So you're the 10,000 kick guys.
I guess so.
Yeah.
So I'd ask the same thing, Repo. Yeah, like do you have any reaction to just being known as like the train guy?
Well, like I said before, it was kind of like a jokey kind of thing. It didn't bother me so much. It did a little bit, but not to the point where I'm just like, getting to really lash out. I'm just like, all right, I gotta actually play other levels and prove myself a bit. So I had that mindset, but after a while, I'm just like, who cares? People actually know who I am. That's pretty cool in itself, especially considering how little I actually interact with the community at large.
Right, yeah. But I mean, that's cool because I wasn't sure. Like when I was asking, I mean, I thought it might be, there'd be some people who I think would be kind of nonplussed, and you were saying, you were kind of ambivalent to it. But I think it's cool that you guys have just kind of like embraced that. I have just a couple more questions because I know you've got to go, Perceptor. So I'll try and get through them. Would either of you ever consider making a tutorial? Because I ask because I mean you both acknowledge that they're both like very underplayed levels, and often just having something like this can be the door for other people to get into this sort of thing.
Like yeah, maybe I think maybe one day I would. In one of my other hobbies is actually video editing. It's the sort of other hobby I have. So it would actually be a good sort of a marriage of those two things. And there is, I think, one of the biggest frustrations I had when I joined this community is like the tutorials were okay, like they're missing a lot of levels, and from what I've learned in playing Control, I think could be to good use, like in a video of some sort. But just saying out, starting out that like Control is it's actually a 50-second level. Could even be a 20-second level if you think about it, hard enough.
Right.
Because a lot of people just, again, that perceived complexity and difficulty of the level that really is unfounded. So I think that's a good idea.
It's kind of funny that you say that. It's not like a 27 level, so you feel like it's. You were saying that stuff like Dammer archives are you liked them less because they were short levels, but they were grindy. Because I mean most people think of Control as a long level, but you actually see it as just a short level, perhaps in the vein of like an archives, but just less grindy and just less optimized.
Yeah, like think about the actual amount of time in that level where you're winning or losing time, right? Like the protect is 2.5 minutes, and add on another 30 seconds for Natalia running back to the elevator, etc. And so really where you're winning and losing time is at the start, which is like 20-ish seconds, and the run to the big room, which is pretty much like another 20-25 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the start is the most important. The first 20 seconds depends on it'll set the pace of the rest of your run. So like and basically, I just always restart if I don't get a fast start. So it's become like a 20-second level, at least for that part. Of course, you still got to, survive the protect and stuff, but you're not winning or losing time in that portion.
So control is basically just like archives, but with the protect.
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
Well, I wouldn't say archives. Archives is obviously shorter.
Yeah.
Once you do the start, you still have to run to the big room, and you still got to time it right. So
yeah.
the latter half of the level is much more knowledge based. And it can be very stressful because you got to back Natalia up 10 times while you're like warding off guards. That can be pretty, anxiety inducing. But yeah, we're actually winning, losing times. It's just, that first 20 seconds and then run to the big room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Repo. The same question. I mean, yeah, you were saying that you felt, Train 00 and potentially Secret Agent were very underplayed. Like, would you consider doing a tutorial to help newer players get into it?
Yeah, I'm gonna. Gink's Perceptor has to go momentarily. Let me try to get through this quickly. Yes, I actually have started working on several facets of a guide. That's right, a guide, not really a video tutorial, over the last few years. But the problem with this level is the more info I know, the more I'm like, oh, I have to redo all this stuff. Every time you play, you learn something new, and it's just like a lot of the stuff I put out, I was getting ready to do. I'm like, I already have to redo it. Even as recently as a month ago, I had somebody ask me like general walk tips and tricks, and even that information is a little bit bunk now. So I do want to do it, but probably after I get a world record. And I've gotten a lot better at explaining the level over the years too. Like when I started getting guys asking me pointers here and there, I didn't really know how to do it well. But now that it's been a few more years, I got a lot more experience at it. I got a lot more experience at analyzing runs, being able to watch a run in any level really, and pinpointing when stuff goes wrong or how to fix it. Now is probably the better time to do it, especially if I do get a world record. So I do want to do it, and that's why I haven't done it so far, because there's still a lot more to learn, even at this stage in the game that I am. So yeah.
I mean, I think that goes to, I think that probably goes to that speaks to the kind of attitude that's honestly enabled you to get the 57. That even at this stage, you feel like you're constantly rewriting and like rebuilding your skill set and constantly learning more. That's cool to hear, man. And that's pretty inspiring. So I mean, I think we'd all love to see that and go through it. But as you say, world record first potentially, and then maybe it'll come.
Yeah, everything I view as correct today could be wrong tomorrow. So I'd like to at least cement it with a world record if possible. Who knows? But it's in the cards. I will say that.
All right. So at this point, if anybody's got any questions in chat that they want to ask, I'd ask them to put them in now. While that's happening, I got a question for both of you guys. Could you name one player whose mindset you admire? Maybe I'll start with you Perceptor.
Ooh, player whose mindset I admire. Let me think. And I apologize. This is probably gonna have to be like the last question.
That's fine. That's fine. Well, actually, no. I'll wrap this up in two then, because my two final questions were going to be: can you name a player whose skill you admire and a player whose mindset you admire?
I mean, for skill, can I say anyone other than Ace? Who's got the untyped control.
I guess Ace would probably be the most accurate answer. If you can think of anyone else, I dare say it would be a more interesting answer. But feel free to, I mean, you probably have a better idea of how skilled Ace is given that his anti-sweep was on your level. So yeah, you'd be able to speak to that very well. So yeah, ace is fine. If you just tell us why you feel that way.
Basically, just one of the signs of someone who's really, really good at something is how easy they make it look. And then when you try it, you just like fall flat on your face. So I mean, this happens in like every sport, right? Like you see someone, there's questions online. It's like, I play at the local YMCA. Do you think I could be like one of these NBA players? It's like no, because they make it look easy. Ace just makes it look easy.
Right.
So I think that would be why
For the skilled player. And anyone come to mind
Right.
for mindset?
Mindset. I think maybe Irie, because I watch his stream sometimes, and he's just looks like he's really enjoying the game, like happy all the time. I think that's a really good mindset, and he's the champion, so
Yeah,
I think that's a really healthy and productive mindset to have. I think I admire Irie for that.
Cool. Icy's got the question. Any thoughts about you being relatively older players? I'll go with you, Perceptor, and then you can head off, and then I'll wrap up with Repo afterwards. If that's cool.
All right, thanks. Are we old? I feel like, I'm in my early 30s. I feel like, anyone who's played GoldenEye when it first came out in 1997 and maybe, as a kid is about our age now, right? Like Clem,
Yep.
like, Ace is a little bit younger, of course, but like, Carl, Goose, all these guys, they're about our age. Like I would consider old more like 40s. So I don't think I'm relatively too old. I hope.
Yeah,
But,
I'm only 30s as well. Like I'm not taking that shit either from Icy. So yeah, I agree.
I know that reflexes apparently tend to peak when you're like in your early 20s. So I know for me, probably, everyone else,
Yeah.
it's all downhill from here. So I'm gonna try to get the best times I can before
Uh-huh.
I'll get arthritis. But
Yeah, we're already dealing with like a second of lag.
exactly. So I think we're all in the same boat here. But thank you guys. I'm sorry I do have to leave, but
Yeah,
it
no
was
problem,
really
dude.
enjoyable talking to you guys.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was a pleasure. It's good to finally talk to you and reach out to you.
yeah,
Yeah, man. So like,
thank you so much for your time, dude. I really appreciate it.
all right, thanks. Take care.
All right, see you
In a
later.
bit, man. So what did I just ask? Oh yeah, yeah. One player whose skill you admire, and one player whose mindset you admire.
Oh, you're not gonna give me the icy grilling me for being old?
Oh sure. Like let's go with that one first. You could, I guess I don't know if you're gonna fight back against that one or just resign yourself to its factuality.
I don't know. I always feel age is just a number. If you're feeling good enough and you have the ability to do some, who cares? It doesn't bother me that much. Yeah, in some ways it kind of is. Maybe perhaps this is why I don't really interact much with the community. There's a disconnect. There's a big enough age gap there. I don't know. I still get along with younger guys when I talk to them, and I like how that came out. That's really awkwardly phrased, but
Right. Okay. Really good to
it's
know.
just a number. It
Uh-huh.
doesn't really matter that much.
Cool. Well, I mean, what about you, Icy? Like, how do you feel? How do you feel being one of the older players? Like, I'd like to
Oh,
see that in chat.
oh, you turned it around on him, huh?
I want to know. While that's happening, yeah. What about the player who's skill and mindset you? Oh wait, we did get a response. Active players are quite a bit younger on average, it seems. Well, which players coming to mind? Oh, I guess Will, BK.
Most of the PD crew is pretty young.
That's true. Yeah, JD. I mean, he just got back on the Caverns grind. And he plays quite a bit. How old is Para? Yeah, responsibility. Yeah, I think that makes a big difference, to be honest. I've started feeling that as well. Like, some days, I'll be like, yeah, I want to play every day this week and kind of get this time. But, sometimes I'll just finish work and be like, oh, God, I just don't have it in me to like, laser focus on something. But yeah, yeah, to go back to it. So, yeah, one player whose skill you admire, and one player whose mindset you admire.
That's a really hard question to answer. I don't know if I can really narrow it down for
Oh, I
either
mean,
of
it doesn't
them.
have to be one player.
I know,
Could
I
be-
could, I could, but the problem is you start naming people, you forget to name somebody, and
I mean, I
I'll
don't think
just
anyone's
start.
gonna be
I'll just,
offended, dude.
I know, but I'll just start firing off people. Like for mindset, again, Irie's mindset of just enjoying the game and having a good time is pretty admirable. You know, Zach's mindset when he's streaming all the time, going for whatever times he's going
I agree
for.
with Zach as well. I think his mindset is really, really, really underrated.
Absolutely, Callie's as well.
Yeah, 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 definitely.
I mean, those are like the big three that immediately jump out. But I mean, if you talk to anybody on a personal level, I mean, most of their mindsets, for the most part, depending on who you talk to, are pretty positive. They might be a little bit confident or cocky or arrogant, but if you read between the lines, they're like, no, they're still enjoying themselves at this. They're might be a little bit, brash and like I'm me and I'm gonna do this, but I guess the ones that stand out for having a negative mindset are more apparent than the ones that have a good one. Isn't that kind of how life works in general? You always focus on the negative.
Yeah, yeah, I'd
But
agree with that. I think.
but
But
yeah, those three guys jump out immediately. I mean,
I mean, just to speak to what you said, I think that that can be true of the community. That just because that just people can just have a negative interaction with just you know a number of people that you could count on one hand, and then they just
right?
that kind of tarnishes their whole opinion of the whole community.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Um,
Now player for skill
yeah.
that I admire. Honestly, when I first started deciding to actually play this game, I did watch a lot of Clem's streams. Obviously because of the stupid 1 minute time I wanted to tie. Stupid is in the sense I'm an idiot for going for it.
Right.
I watched a lot of his stuff, so just his style. Again, all the other top names, Ace, Mark, even other guys too. Like anyone pretty much in the top 20, just to really paint a broad stroke. Like any of those guys watching their specific runs, even if they do have levels that they're known for, like the JD having 50 something dupes of Caverns 101, stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that. I mean, I think you can admire. Maybe this is a more biased statement, but I think you can pretty much admire anybody for any accomplishment they've done, even if it's just one, or in some cases like Ace or Clem or whomever, many. So yeah, it's not really the best answer, but there's an answer.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's good. That's good for me, man. I think I mean I feel like these discussions always begin with like Mark Ace Clemens. I feel like they've it's like they have really like distinguished themselves to like a massive degree. But I think that kind of yeah, I think like yeah, as you say, like the top 20, like they do kind of. I don't want to say got under the radar because I mean they're obviously well known, they're in the top 20, but to get to that level, like you have to be such a skilled player that just because you're not in the top five, like it really does go under the radar, and there are
Well,
so many like exceptionally talented people in this community.
oh, absolutely. You could go up and down the whole rankings to find out. Just because rankings are just such a weird spot due to hordes and people not viewing points as important, other players viewing points as important. It just depends on the individual and what their actual goals are and what their approaches to those goals. I mean, there are some players that don't care about getting any world records. They just want to be really high in the rankings, which is totally fine. There are other players that want to get insane world records and untieds. Guys like Callie who don't really care so much about the rankings other than look at these insane world records and untieds. It just depends on what your goals are, I guess. And you know, you get to see a glimpse of what the person's capable of, even if their literal rankings don't reflect it.
Right, right, right.
I mean, because you have a guy like Misty who has the Aztec untied, as we know.
Yeah.
I mean, at the time, who knows about hoarding and all the rumors about that? Or guys like Joaquim and his achievements too. Like these guys are. I mean, I know isn't Joaquim like not even in the top 100?
For some reason I feel like he broke into the top 100 recently. Let's have a look. Where is he? Oh, no,
But the point,
he's not even there.
but
No, he's not even top 100.
yeah, the point remains like
104th.
these. Oh God, he's gonna pass me.
Oh no, dude, he
These
literally
weird.
did. He literally did. Yeah, you're 105th. He's 104th.
Well, great. Now I can't talk about him anymore. But
Funny.
yeah, but yeah, just there's always an outlier and always a glimpse into what their mindsets are, depending on what they are. I was top 100, I think, for like 3 days, and then somebody knocked me out, and I just haven't cared to get back.
Oh,
But again,
Jesus,
my
man.
focus isn't so much on rankings. Like, I want to at least get a world record on this stage. I'm
Yeah,
not getting enough of, I
it's
guess.
interesting. There are like 3 level specialists in a row with You've got Tide King 106th, you 105th, and then Joaquin 104th. Kind of cool.
I suppose so. Yeah, that's interesting.
You mentioned players like potentially um, uh, well, they're potentially being like hordes out there and stuff like that. I mean, do you have
Hmm.
I mean, I feel like it's not as controversial as it used to be. I mean, do you have any opinions on I know like the practice of hoarding and like not posting times and stuff like that?
Well, I've been invited to Horde a few times, a couple which I tried to. It never was for me. Even when I accepted the invitation, hoarding was never really for me. Like the first one, I had a bunch of times that, yeah, I was so inexperienced, I didn't realize how ridiculous it would be to get. I bowed out just because I'm just like, I don't really, not feeling it. Um, I don't really enjoy hoarding as a player. I want to at least, it's like, I got this time, here it is, it's over with. I don't like to hold on to it and think about it too much. This is
Right.
how I approach it. And I get the idea for hordes, your celebration of look at all this work I did over 6 months. It's more of like a massive firework versus a bunch of firecrackers over the span of a period of time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I get why they're kind of overplayed and burnt out too, because at some point it just turns into like it is now. Everybody's pointing fingers like, oh, this guy's hoarding, this guy's hoarding, this guy's hoarding. Everybody's hoarding now because the activity's gone down. I mean, it might be true. Everybody might be hoarding. Everybody might not be hoarding. Who knows?
But I mean that's
In that
that's part of it, right? It's the fact that it's impossible to know. It's like I guess it increases paranoia to some extent.
Right. I do feel like hoarding really has more advantages and disadvantages in the rankings. Like you're not really penalized, but they're trying to kind of fix that some little bit. I don't know. Not really into hoarding myself. I can appreciate him, and I do watch him, but just I don't know. Not really for me. Other than yeah, I'll watch and appreciate the work put into it, and other than that, I think they've had a bit of a weird impact, both positively and negatively. Again, rankings feel kind of iffy now, but at the same time, friends getting together and enjoying themselves and playing the game, you can't forget that. I don't know.
Right.
I honestly don't know. I'm going to take the middle ground of hordes or hordes.
Okay. Well, all right. So let me ask you another way. So, remember we had like I think it was Project 2020, which ended with Cali's like 146. Is there a part of you that let's say if you were invited to a horde and then you end up getting the 56, like isn't there a part of you that thinks it'd be pretty cool to like if you had the training 56 as like the final run, and then like everyone goes nuts.
Yeah, part of me does, but I don't know. Again, it's just it's just one of those things where I got it at this time. I'm still reeling off of it now. If anyone wants to celebrate with me, let's all reel off it. Versus like I got it now, and 6 months later, I'm kind of whatever about it. Like look how I am about the 57. I'm just kind of it's weird to have it,
Mm-hmm.
but I guess in the sense of celebration at the time, I wouldn't really be into it because it didn't just happen. I don't really have any emotion other than yeah, I got this time. Isn't that badass? Versus I just got this time. Holy shit! Look at this. It's crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the holding on part is the yeah the difficult bit, I guess.
It's the Christmas presents under the tree 3 weeks before the 25th.
Right, yeah.
You know what's in there because you asked for it. You have a wish list. You have an idea of what's in there, but you can't open it. You can't have anyone else open it, and it's just sitting there, bugging you, pestering you. You try to take a peek. You can't do it. You get away with it a little bit, then you get caught. It's this weird. just
Christmas was
yeah.
Christmas was the original Horde.
Christmas is the original Horde, absolutely.
That's deep, man. I like it.
Yeah, right.
I wanted. It's a shame. I would like to ask this to Perceptor, but I wanted to ask the question: if there's like a new player listening to this, who is thinking like, yeah, man, like I want to get some amazing records on Train. Like or not even necessarily on Train, but I want to do something really exceptional. As Perceptor said, the game's becoming more and more optimized, and specialization seems to be the way things are perhaps going. So, as someone who's perhaps ahead of the curve on that, and is really, as I said, known as a level specialist, what would you say it isn't a particularly well beaten path, but it may become more so in the future? What are the ingredients that you would say go into, being a really successful level specialist?
Like you said earlier, it's a mindset. It's all a mindset. That mindset and having fun. If you're not having fun, why are you doing it? And being able to have a healthy mindset of being able to improve, especially on some levels which don't necessarily have a ton of documentation. They might have a few guys who know how it works inside and out, but at the same time, how accessible are those guys? How accessible is this information? How accessible is what I'm doing, like, to anything? At some point you're gonna have to sit down and you're gonna have to buckle in. You're gonna have to figure it out. You're gonna have to do the deep dives. You're gonna have to innovate and figure out some new ways to approach the level. And I think just having a healthy, positive mindset about it, being into the idea of you're gonna have to do some work, but it could be fun. It's fun. You're still playing a fucking video game. It's fun. If you're not having fun, why are you doing it?
Do you think that there will ever be a time when you find Train 00 fun again?
No, absolutely not. I am not wanting to. I really don't want to play that level again, and I know I should because it's LSU, and that'd be pretty neat to get. But, I mean, for all I know, it's in a Horde tide. There you go, back to Hordes. But that's not going to deter me. Like, somebody asked me recently, might have been you, might have been someone else, like, how would you feel if you got wind that, let's say 56 was already slayed, or Henry gets 55 tomorrow, what would you do? And I said that I don't care. I'd still play for it because I don't have that time. Does it make a difference if he has it or not? I still want it. So it's more like lines of like self-motivating, your own individual goals, having the mindset to continue down that road, that sort of thing,
Right. But I wanna press you on that a little bit though. Like you were saying that like the whole point is like having fun, but you still intend on playing something which, for all intents and purposes, you don't find fun anymore.
Yeah.
So square that circle for me.
Yeah, it's a speedrunner's paradox, isn't it?
Like,
I could sit here and talk a good game, but I can't. I obviously can't fake it when it's me in front of the screen.
So I mean, like with that, would it just be so? What would the motivation be then? Because you say you still intend to go back for it. So, like, what's your? Again, we're talking about mindset, and you're saying that's the most important thing. So what's how
I'm going to be tricky.
A good mindset with that.
I'm going to be tricky on answering that question, and I'm not going to give you the one you want by giving you a different answer. That was the level I got my first point on. I have to get a world record on it.
Right.
I'm driven to do it, and I guess the drive is what's going to make it fun. It's going to be the whole, build up and release effect. Like, yeah, it's going to be hard. It's not going to be exactly pleasurable, but once it happens, it's going to be like, there it is. I'm released. It's over with. So I guess the driving force is also very important of like why you're doing it, which I guess that's what you're getting into. And what would drive me there is, first point, pretty serious world record, and it's LSU. And there's prestige behind it. That's not the main motivating goal, other than I'm so close to the stupid world record already. I put so much time into it. I want to try. I know I could get it. I know I have it in me. I just gotta buckle in. And That's really it. I don't really have a good answer. Again, this is all just a weird psychological experiment where you'll contradict yourself. You'll say XYZ, but in reality it's ABC, and how you behave and go about it. I don't know. I don't know other than what I told you right now. Why I'd go for it.
Well, to go back to something else, when I asked you about what your ambitions were, you said 56. You definitely want to go for. I mean, you've now said you feel like you got to go for the 148 because that was your first points. I mean, if you got them, both of them, presumably you'd have to go for the sweep, right?
I suppose so, but 148's like a white whale. That's also why I want to go for it. It didn't happen, and it bugs me. I got to get it. There's also that aspect, but I think I mentioned it earlier. If I did play SA, I'm not doing it without the Oro shot. I'd have to learn how to do it, and I have to figure out how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something I probably will try and mess with if somehow I'm able to get 56.
Okay, so
I don't know.
Okay, all right, and so like looking at now, if we're looking into the crystal ball, and let's say imagine you get you slay all three untieds. Like, what do you think? Do you think you'll be like, right, let's push this even further, or do you think it's more likely you'll be like, right, this is one of the most difficult things I've ever done in my life. Like, I think I can stop here.
Well, I don't know. As a 40-year-old man who finally tied all 3 world records, it's a weird place to say where I don't know where I would be. I don't know if I'd have the time to do it. I don't know if I'd have the, I guess, motivation to do it by then, just because of other factors of life. I mean,
Right.
My point here saying that is, yeah, sure, I'm close, but I'm still very far away. I don't know how long any of these times would take me.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It really depends on how long they take me and where I'm at.
That's fair. That's fair. That makes sense. Okay. So, presumably you're what are you playing at the moment? Are you specifically just going for the 56 at the moment, or are you playing in the SA, or what?
Yeah, I'm going for 56 at the moment. I think I have a lot of momentum going into it, so I got to give it a shot. I've flirted a bit with other levels, not too much, but that's still my primary one. I mean, I'm considering learning 2.3 and just going for a frigate A22 possibly. It's not going to be fun, or maybe it will be fun. I don't know, but that control scheme, I think, for everybody's intimidating.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's got good. It's got good. Like the ease of getting the time has got very good reviews from people who've done it. So it makes the pace a lot easier.
Yeah, other than that, I'm messing with Facility Agent 43, stuff like that. Nothing really too major other than I got to go for 56. I'm trying for it still, and that's the majority of my grind time. But yeah, just messing around with random levels aside from that.
Eric says Sean's got to get the redemption on jungle too. Is that?
Oh yeah, if you watch my double OPB on jungle, I have the strat I've called the Xenia execution strat, where I run out of ammo, have to run back around, turn around, and shoot her in the head with a PP7, and it loses like 4 or 5 seconds.
Okay.
My PB's 1 minute because of that.
That sounds suboptimal.
I don't know what you're talking about. It's one of the best progressive strats out there. You just gotta look at it in the right eyes.
I mean, the fact that you got it at all is pretty impressive. I'm not gonna lie.
I think I felt like this is really just happened right now. But yeah,
we saw the 44 recently, like on Facility. Any plans to play Facility at all?
well, yeah, I think I mentioned I'm messing around with going for 43 on Agent. I mean, I have a pretty good shot at it. Last I played it, my starts are good enough. Got to make a practice run for the labs or something like that. I just need to spend time on the level.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know when it'll come.
Solid. That makes sense. Okay, so I know we had it with Perceptor already, like when he was going. But I mean, if anybody's got any questions in chat, for Sean specifically, this would be a good time. Oh, damn! I meant to ask this question to Perceptor, but I didn't. Um, what are your best paces and fails on the different difficulties?
On train,
Yeah.
55, no idea, 147. I just,
Okay.
I just not. I guess you could say 122 on S6. I did get very, very close to doing it at one point, but no, I'm sorry, not 120. That's the new world record, 123. Yeah, 123. Let me clarify. That's a big difference there.
Hmm.
But I haven't played SA in a very long time.
Yeah, that's What's your PB on SA?
125.
Okay. So
Yeah,
yeah, that's that's a bit. That's a bit. I mean, you're 1 second away on Agent and Double O, so yeah, slightly further off.
well, yeah, like I said, I'm not playing it unless I learn the roar shot. There's just no point for me. I mean, I could possibly get 122 with the old strat, but that's also just ridiculous, you know? It's like,
ASAS 123 without Aura shot? Question mark.
yeah, I paced it. I've thought about it. I went for it for a while, but I don't think I'm gonna go.
I mean, when you said, oh, like when I go back to SA, I'm learning Aura shot 100%, and like I was kind of just vibing on what you were saying. Like, yeah, man, that's awesome. But yeah, dig into that a little bit. Like, what made you just make that decision just to go for it?
Because 122 without the oral shot is absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. And if I'm coming back to that level with a hypothetical world record on any of the other levels that would sandwich it, why would I go in unless I'm going to go, for the gusto?
Mm-hmm. That's.
I mean, I could probably play for 123, maybe get it without the shot, but at this point, it's like, oh great, I have a 97-point sweep. It's insane I have it, but at the same time, it's just like, I know with that one shot, it would make things a little bit better, especially since I've really, really upped my game in the locks recently. So before it was out of reach, that's why I put it off so long. But recently, I've gotten my locks really, really, really consistent. So now I feel more confident jumping into it. So that's also why I put it off too.
And presumably, like, next level locks are what would be needed for 121 and 120. I mean, because it was the locks that Henrik failed on for the 121. So if it
Yeah,
was, yeah, if 121 or as you say potentially 120 is out there, then those.
well,
Yeah.
not that's not necessarily true. It's just the way that strat works. As soon as Ormov's hit, your time for the level's set, and you have to get to the locks immediately. If you shoot him from far, you actually have to burn more time getting to the locks because
Right,
the two
right,
guards
right.
are going to mess with you, whatever randomization they want to do. Henry got unlucky. Obviously, didn't get good animation, lost some time. So any oral shot completion, you need to have stellar locks. Otherwise, it's really out of reach,
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same no matter what the time. Even if we were to cut hypothetical a couple more seconds, it's still the same situation where the two last guards there are going to determine how much time you have. And from that angle and that vulnerable spot of shooting him, then trying to kill them quickly, not exactly ideal for consistent and fast cut-ins to the locks.
Right, all right. Well, at this point, I remember you were talking about like the max times, and then you said you didn't want to get into the weeds. Like since we're here and we're already talking about the intricacies of this stuff, like we might as well. So for 121, 120, it's going to be Oro shot, and then fast.
100% oral shot.
All right, and then fast locks. For the 147, do you think that will need an Uro shot, or do you think it could be done
No,
without?
it could be done without it, but you need to have the best run you're ever going to have in a couple forward boosts.
Okay.
Like I said a couple times, I've paced it. I know others have paced it. It's out there, but it's so astronomically low on the radar being able to complete. it's playing for it without doing the Oro shot is ridiculous. And even playing with the Oro shot is even more ridiculous because number one, that strat's difficult, even on SA. Number two, you never get runs that fast to the end on double O ever. And you already have astronomically low odds, so you're going to also cripple it by adding in another low percentage completion of shooting Oromop on double O, where the two guards really hate you there, you know?
So I mean,
It's just
if you had to bet on how 147 happens, would you say it'll be with or without?
it depends on how crazy some of these players are to go for. I mean, Henrik could do it if I tied 148 or Ace or Mark or Clem or Luke or anybody or Gus, anybody with a really good time, or even Frostops, anybody with a really good double O time could tie it. That might motivate him to sweep and go for it, you know? Get back to untied sweep.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I wouldn't do it. I personally wouldn't do it. That level's completion odds are already astronomically low. To couple that in there, that's really tough. I think 147 would happen probably with another skip or somebody who's super determined for it. So that's the only two ways I think it could happen. I just don't think the Oro shot's reasonable for it. That's all.
Okay, that makes sense. So I guess the most interesting one is agent then. So
Yeah.
so yeah, take me through. So what do you think would be necessary for? Well, let's start with 155 first of all. What do you need for 155, and then we'll see what you need to add in for each second as we come off. So 155 first.
You said 155 for agent?
Yeah. What's needed for 155?
Playing 2.x. No, I'm just giving you shit. I know you meant 55. A couple different ways I can go. Faster run, faster locks. Faster locks is more likely in a faster run.
Okay. So that's fairly simple. Just be better, right? I mean, is it the same for?
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, you go.
No, I'm saying, yeah, that and better lag management to get the locks even faster, possibly. But at this point, it would be more reasonable to get 55 with really good locks versus playing for a ridiculously fast run.
Okay, all right. So what about 54? What do we need for that?
I think it could be done with insane locks. I think it can be.
Like a 56 run plus just insane locks?
Yeah, but when you're doing that, you're kind of touching the ceiling. It may not be possible, might barely be, and may barely be not, but I think it can be done with it. It's just, it's disgusting to think of that kind of a completion. Barely be possible? I don't know. It's very, 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 very hard to say. He probably would
expect a faster run may be necessary.
Slightly faster, if anything. It doesn't have to be absurdly faster, just maybe 0.3 or 0.5 faster. Just enough to get you a little bit extra time. Maybe get a high amount of kills, at least 18 plus. Then we'll talk about it. That's still very, very difficult to do. That's even just discussing it. I don't want to cheapen it at all. That's absurd time.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's gonna think of cheapening Train 54.
No, of course not.
And so yeah, what about well, in your opinion, the theoretical max? Like, what would be needed for 53?
Fastest run ever, 54 tier locks.
Okay.
Simple as that, yeah. And it's just the level itself is pretty much set as we know it right now, unless some strat comes out that you can run it faster. Who knows? This game could happen tomorrow. Could happen tomorrow. We get the fabled lock skip, and this level gets blown open again. Who knows? But 56 itself, and I know Henrik would agree, and possibly Mark and Ace and others, is he's posted runs faster than his 56. I think on his channel he's like, what is it, like a pace or something like that?
Yeah, just the video is just called pace, I think.
Yeah, and I've had runs, a little bit faster than that, around that speed too.
Damn.
So Yeah, that's out there. The 100% is out there for like that. And then just having the most ridiculous locks we've ever seen in a legit completion. That's what it would take, and that is just not reasonable to consider at all, you know.
Oh,
But
yeah.
that's what it would require. Yeah.
Damn, dude. Okay. Yeah, I think I'll make this potentially the last question because yeah, we're coming over 2 hours. Um,
Okay.
yeah, like could you just kind of just sum up just how it's been for you? Just been. I know you say you're a peripheral figure in the community, but obviously you are part of like several discords and like you've been around and I mean as your times are getting better, you're becoming I don't want to say you're getting more like notoriety, but people are like starting to step up and take notice. Um, would you just how's it been for you being in this community, like from like start to finish? Um, what's it been like? Has it been like a positive experience for you, or you I don't know you don't take that much notice of the community, or what? Like, what's your experience been overall?
You know, there's been so many feuds and so much drama and problems among little subsets of this community. Any community is like this too. We're no exception at all. Don't get me
Yeah,
wrong. You just kind of view this as always happening. You know, no matter what. Again, it's always going to be going on. Sometimes you get caught up in it. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you know people who are caught up in it, and you have to take sides. Sometimes you necessarily don't. But I mean, all that aside, it's been pretty positive so far. I mean, to be honest with you, everybody I've talked to one on one has been nothing but excellent. You know,
right, right.
and that I mean, some people can act a certain way with around certain groups or whatever, or certain opinions. That's human nature. We all do it. But I've not had one private interaction with anybody here that's been anything but positive.
Right.
So overall, it's been pretty positive. I've met a lot of really nice and cool people, seen a lot of really insane things, seen mind blowing things, and yeah. So overall, pretty positive.
That's all. That's that's cool. Well, hopefully, as a result of this, and people and see you as like slightly less mysterious than they did like at the beginning.
No, you
Um,
mean my one message every 4 months in a Discord channel is not enough?
yeah.
All right.
Uh, yeah. I mean, I'm sure people have learned have potentially learned more about you in this this last 2.5 hours than they have in I mean however many years you've been in the community. Um,
Yeah, I mean, then there's also Perceptor. I mean, that guy is just totally just
but yeah, he's not even on
100%
Discord.
off.
Yeah,
He's off the grid, like in the middle
completely.
of just nowhere. That
Yeah, it was
was
really cool to like get to know him. Like I don't know, he seems like a really cool guy.
yeah. I mean, I don't interact much with the community, but I'm still at least around. That guy's just like it's really interesting that you're able to get him, and it was really great of him to be able to do this with
Yeah,
us because
I was so
yeah,
happy when he responded positively, and yeah, he was a good guest, and like it's been great. And I mean, I want to thank you as well. I want to thank you for taking 2.5 hours like out of your day to do this. It's been really cool.
oh,
I really enjoyed it.
I mean, I appreciate the invite. I enjoyed it too. I mean, thanks for doing this. I never thought I'd be up here having this kind of a conversation, but I
Yeah,
really
man.
appreciate it
Like
and I'm grateful.
you can't get a train 57 and like expect people not to sit up and take notice, man.
I suppose so.
All right. So I think that just about wraps it up. Like I've had a really good time, dude. Um,
Yeah, for
and
sure.
thanks to everybody for hanging out in chat. Um, yeah, it was cool hosting like the first mate chat, and hopefully get another one going before too long. So see everybody next time, and have a good one, everybody. And thanks again, Sean.
Thank you.